seeing those, but they said that they were in both locations above the door in the barns.
I'm sure that it seems like we must have seen them, but
Well, it was like Operation Overload there anyway.
Exactly. There was so much to concentrate on one thing was impossible.
Right.
Was that a tour that two of you went on when you were in Florida together?
No, this is the Barnes Foundation in Philadelphia. I went to a Matisse exhibit today in Naples, and one of the pictures was of the Barnes Foundation. There's a lot at the Museum of Modern Art, has a lot of Matisse stuff, but I was trying to remember also the Rockefeller Kikit, the chapel, I thought had something of Matisse's. But
Got me.
Well,
very interesting. Quite an incredible person.
well, you just raised the culture of this Bible study by 10 points.
There you go. Gosh, I went to Kikit so many times. You'd think I'd remember I just remember the mobiles,
Right, but no, in the chapel, which was not part of Kikit.
It's down the road.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Matisse and I think Mondrian. Was it Mondrian? Someone did this, the stained glass, but there was also something else. But anyway, okay, enough art for tonight.
Okay.
Art history.
I think we are reading 76 tonight, right? Anybody have countering information to that?
All right, I have to get my Bible out.
We did 76. Let me say welcome to the live stream program. If you're watching now, this is the High Mountain Presbyterian Church, and we are a Zoom Bible study tonight, and we are reading our way through the Psalms. I'm happy with how far we've gone, and I think we are on 76. Which we're going to get confirmed. I did some advanced reading on this, and I have to say, this one, I don't want to prejudice the group, but this one is pretty much unavailable to me. I don't get this one at all.
No.
I don't really
So
know.
we're going to have to give you some hints.
Yes, you guys are going to have to unlock the secret to this one for me, because, and if we can't, then we're just going to go, we're going to read the next one. I don't know. This one, I mean, it's good. You don't have God killing everybody, but
76.
76.
Well, I know we haven't read this yet, so.
Yeah, no, we haven't.
Yeah.
And I know we did 75 last week because I have it all marked up.
Okay. Oh, it's 76.
All right, so who's reading?
No. I'll read.
Okay.
Yeah.
In Judah, God is known. His name is great in Israel. His abode has been established in Salem, his dwelling place in Zion. There he broke the flashing arrows, the shield, the sword, and the weapons of war. Glorious are you, more majestic than the everlasting mountains. The courageous were stripped of their spoil. They sank into sleep. None of the troops was able to lift a hand. At your rebuke, O God of Jacob, both rider and horse lay stunned. But you indeed are awesome. Who can stand before you when your anger is roused? From the heavens you uttered judgment. The earth feared and was still when God rose up to establish judgment, to save all the oppressed of the earth. Human wrath serves only to praise you. When you bind the last bit of your wrath around you, make vows to the Lord your God and perform them. Let all who are around him bring gifts to the one who is awesome, who cuts off the spirit of princes, who inspires fear in the kings of the earth. Okay.
Hi, Judy. Hi, you're just in time. We just finished reading for the first time through Psalm 76. And it's time for everybody to say all that they think they hear in this psalm.
Well, the AI says that it is a song of praise that celebrates God's victory over enemies and protection of Zion or Jerusalem.
There you go.
The psalm encourages people to honor God and trust in his power. So AI is telling you that.
I think the part that's most visible in it, if we look carefully, is that, you know that phrase, praise God and pass the ammunition?
Yeah.
Okay, so this psalmist is saying, praise God and put the ammunition down. Mm-hmm. This is trust God's power, and the warriors are stopped, the war horses are stopped, the weapons are destroyed, and that in whatever way God is now showing how really unhappy God is when the human population turns on the poor and is brutal with injustice to those who cannot defend themselves. But God does not use, in this psalm, God does not use the weapons of war to right the scales. There's a sense in which it's the fear of God which turns the hearts of people or changes their way. What do you think of that?
Sounds really pretty good.
Yeah.
Even here it's talking about human anger is only praise to God.
Yeah.
So he's even turning our anger, I guess, towards one another into praise of God. Because before God, all of that is negated. I mean, it's ineffective.
Yeah, it does. It's ineffective. It sees the willingness of humans to rage or to try to earn, their own version of it is pointless. God is able to do this. The stout-hearted are plundered. Their animals are falling asleep. The horse, the shield, and the battle weapons are dropping to the ground, and the fiery arrows are shattered. So no weapons of human war can match the power of the righteousness and the justice of God.
My comments mention that 8 and 9, God intervenes on behalf of those who seek justice and the end of oppression.
Yeah, I mean it's a very hopeful psalm.
It is.
I wish there were some examples of how that happens. But
Be great if God could hurry up and cut off the spirit of princes and inspire fear in the kings right now. Come on, God.
I'm sorry.
No, I mean, listen, what's that saying? From your mouth to God's ears. I mean, it's time. Let's stop now before it gets really bad. Let's stop.
It's giving honor. Let's see. This one comment also says that 7 to 9 is giving honor to the great God. You yourself are to be feared. Who may stand in your presence when once you were angry?
And another place says that this text in verse 22, Yahweh's wondrous power and ability to deliver his people without use of their weapons. So Yahweh breaks not only the weapons of the enemies, but also the weapons of Israel, which are to be purged.
Good idea.
Yeah, they're to be purged from Israel by Yahweh, along with idols and soothsayers, and that appears also as a proclamation in Micah chapter 5. And I'll read it. It's here. In that day, says the Lord, I will cut off your horses from among you, and I will destroy your chariots. I will cut off the cities of your land and throw down all of your strongholds. And I will cut off sorceries from your hand, and you shall have no more soothsayers. And I will cut off your images and your pillars from among you, and you shall bow down no more to the works of your own hands. You know, this is God asserting for both the enemies and the friends. God is asserting the role of God in the world. I am God. I don't need your help. And I certainly don't need your violence and your addition to the problem.
Mm.
Also, there's a comment about Salem, which I had never realized that saying Salem is the same as Jerusalem.
Yeah, Jerusalem.
City of peace.
Yep.
City of peace.
I'm thinking of Salem, Massachusetts, and the witch trials.
Yeah, not a lot.
That's when I read that. I was thinking, what?
Yeah, not a lot of peace there.
Oh.
Oh.
Salem, Massachusetts was named after Jerusalem.
I guess so. It's so ironic to me sometimes when you look at words and you look at what's in a word and don't connect. Oftentimes I think, I don't connect words like Salem and Jerusalem.
Right.
That's interesting.
Oh, boy.
It's
And again, it's Asaph mentioned here.
A song, right? So
Psalm of Asaph.
yeah. Ace fight psalm. But again, the commentary is full of this idea that some of the other psalms that we have read, you hear that God is capable of anger, but that the anger then is, according to the writer of the psalm, is directed towards the enemies of the psalmist. But this psalm strikes out a neutral kind of, above it all kind of perspective of God. This is not about an anger or a punishment that will lead to more anger and punishment. When God brings the judgment, all are judged. It all comes under the judgment of God, who, again, is described. There's a lot of violent language in it, but this God who is on the side of the poor, who is a friend of the friendless, who's asking human beings to take care of each other. And it's, I don't know, there's a promise that God is somehow going to attend to this. In the teeth of seemingly overwhelming evidence that there is a judgment which sets right the horrible endemic evil in human existence. The one whose name is great in Israel will rise to judge the earth and possess all the nations. And it's not the God of the whole world to set us up. It's the God of justice who's blind to national identities, but cares tremendously for the plight and the condition of those who suffer. I still remember in Philadelphia, at Eastern Seminary where I was right on the main line avenue where some of the most wealthy people in the United States live, at suburb of Philadelphia, Bryn Mawr and others. And the preachers would come in, especially the African American preachers, and they would always read the scriptures that talk about God is on the side of the poor. And boy, it ruffled the feathers of the Presbyterians that live on the main line in the great big First Presbyterian Church of Bryn Mawr. And the question always was, what do you mean God's on the side of the poor? I thought God was on all of our side, you know? So is God against the rich? That was a part of conversations and questions and reflections about what does that mean? That God takes up the cause of the poor. God is on their side. Well, how can that be? I thought, God was supposed to love us all. Because, the rich and the poor, they suffer alike, right?
Yeah, sure they do. Oh, that's always a problem in affluent communities. It's harder to preach that because there is that pushback. I'm sure Barbara recalls one of the biblical readings about it's harder for a camel to go through the eye of the needle, and someone from the congregation challenged that, like, how can you say something like that? Why are you talking like that? And the response was, well, that wasn't me, that was Jesus saying that. Yeah, it's not easy to be criticized, especially if you're having a good time in life. It hurts. You've got a responsibility towards people who have less, and to be reminded of that, it brings discomfort.
Yeah, and at another point, Jesus is being challenged on that too, and he says, basically the rich have received their comfort. They have received their comfort. They've lived and celebrated in a comfort that the really poor never knew. And so the message to the rich person is, you better enjoy it while you have it, because you've got your reward. You have received your reward already. And it was the story of Lazarus, going up into heaven, and then, the rich man asking to have Lazarus pulled out of heaven to give him a drink of water. And Father Abraham says, no, he's earned his rest. He's earned his comfort, the reward of heaven, because he spent his whole life as a poor man laying at the gate and no one would give him food or anything. Now he's comforted, and you are in discomfort. Now, I don't believe Jesus was teaching a doctrine of heaven and hell or any of that, but he's trying to raise awareness that if you are lucky enough to live a life of comfort, for goodness sakes, take care of the poor. Let your comfort extend to the poor, to the sick, to the outcast, to the people who have no home and no nation and who are fleeing for their lives. Measure your level of comfort and then share some of that with others. But
I'm sorry. I'm reading in one of the commentaries, and it says, John Witherspoon, member of the Continental Congress, the only minister to sign the Declaration of Independence, preached a sermon from this psalm on May 17th, 1776, not long before he signed the Declaration. You can easily find the entire sermon online. Here are some brief excerpts, and it goes into a lot about, what a good form of government may hold the rotten materials together for some time, but beyond a certain pitch, even the best constitution will be ineffectual and slavery must endure. On the other hand, when the manners of a nation are pure, when true religion and internal principles maintain their vigor, the attempts of the most powerful enemies to oppress them are commonly baffled and disappointed.
Yeah, because God in the end will be victorious. God is not fighting for God's sake. God's not fighting, for God to be, again, I think the God I was raised on was a jealous God who wanted to make sure that I was paying enough attention to God, and God was offended if I was paying attention to someone besides God. It's like a petty lover in a teenage romance. But instead, I've learned that God is jealous for justice, jealous for a fairness that will not find its way into the world and the earth all by itself. And if you want to play around with that, go ahead. Because this psalm especially, God is God. You realize, who you're messing with. God can destroy all of your armies and all of your weapons. Okay, I'm ready.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's really easy when you have some power and some wealth and some privilege to think that, nothing can harm you, you're above everything. And this is a reminder that you are certainly not.
You're thinking of our present government?
Well, I think we're always thinking of that. Yeah, it's hard not to.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I be honest with you, every day that goes by, I fall deeper and deeper into perplexity. I am perplexed because the movement of these people who are tying into, government is too big, it's abusive, it's wasteful, and so they're valiant, right? These people are the deliverers. They're out there trying to avoid waste. They're trying to save you and I from foolishly wasting our money in the world, and they're discovering all kinds of abuse, right? And so they're going to set things right. They're appealing.
I know that's not what they're doing.
I know. So what I was going to say is, it's like they've coated a turd with barbecue sauce. I mean,
They are experts in camouflage.
Yeah, it's so, but they're appealing to that righteousness, that vindication, that justice. They're raising the flag of honesty and justice, and all the while they're riding horses of deception. They are lying at every turn of the bend in order to keep the flame burning, which they believe is fueling their movement, which is the movement of justice, the movement of truth. Finally, we're finding out the truth that, the government of the United States has been sending condoms to the Middle East at,
just not true.
Billions, so that goes out, and it goes out under the guise of, we are the liberators, we're going to tell you a truth you never imagined. And meanwhile, what's really happening is they're just deepening and deepening their ability to get their claws into a governmental structure that they want destroyed.
Right.
So they destroy it with the mantle of truth, which isn't true.
And that's the banner that they're marching behind, are all these words like patriot and truth and justice, and it's such a terrible thing.
I remember when we studied George Orwell's 1984 in literature, and I wondered, would the day ever really come, where George Orwell's claimed that day was going to come when a word that means truth wouldn't be about truth, and that everything was doublespeak, and I try to imagine that, okay, in a science fiction book, like, oh wow, that's really crazy. We are so far into that world right now, it's unbelievable. It is unbelievable.
And they did it mostly by taking over the means of communication.
Yes.
So if you made the communication outlets all lies, and people can't get the right information, you believe the lies. Yeah. You believe it.
Again, I haven't had time to check if this is true, but I have an idea that it is. The Super Bowl was broadcast on Fox Network, right? So the Fox whole network business carried the Super Bowl. They had the contract for it. And of course, Donald Trump went to the Super Bowl for the first time, the president of the United States. Now, what I learned today was, I was shocked Because when Trump came into the stadium, there was a roar of applause and cheers that went up for him. And it was depressing. It was absolutely depressing to me that happened. Well, what I found out, what I heard was that if you were watching the program on another channel, like a small local channel, you would realize that Fox dubbed the sound of the stadium into cheers, and it wasn't cheers at all. It was boos.
Oh, probably. Yeah, I would imagine that. Sure.
I didn't want to watch the game. All I wanted to watch were the commercials and Kendrick Lamar, because my grandson is a fan of Kendrick Lamar and I've never seen him. So I have no idea, because I don't watch anything but PBS, BritBox, and Prime Video. So I couldn't find Fox. I thought I did. I recorded on Telemundo.
So unless you speak the language.
I didn't see Trump. Well, maybe I started with the Star Spangled Banner, so maybe it come in already.
But I mean, what defense do we have when you have one of the largest, most successful networks in the nation, and they take control of the truth by changing the cries of the crowd from boos to cheers?
Right?
Like it's
How do they do that?
well, they have the soundtrack.
Yeah, right.
They're broadcasting the
Or
same.
just like silent movies used to.
Yeah,
Put different things on, right?
they have.
the
You know,
audio.
All
They
right.
can put anything on.
oh,
They have the
absolutely, they can.
technology. It's the technology that
Right?
to do that, yeah?
I mean, it's a comedy in how it's done, but I don't know if you've ever seen this, lip reading thing where they show someone talking and then they dub other words into that person's mouth. I mean, the ability to do that with perfection today is amazing.
Yeah.
You cannot trust what you see. You cannot trust what you hear. You cannot, because there is someone engineering it on the other side.
So that the boos for Taylor Swift were really not.
I don't know. I think they were real.
That actually, I saw excerpts of it. I didn't watch any of the game or anything, but they kept showing that on the morning news
Yeah.
of Taylor Swift getting booed. But she was actually on the Jumbotron,
Right.
and you could see her expression like, whoa, okay. I think something was happening
Yeah,
there.
I think she did
for
get
real.
booed.
Well, Kelsey, her boyfriend, had said how wonderful it was that Trump was coming.
Oh, okay. Well, I would boo them.
That might have been why.
She
Do
felt
you know how much it costs to have that guy there?
Yeah,
Had
they,
he charged that to us?
they said it was
the
20
taxpayer?
million.
Yeah,
It costs
because his whole entourage and his family and all this jazz.
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, today I read that there are $17 million spent on moving homeless people from the area and putting them in a warehouse miles away with very little decent housing or whatever.
Really?
And you've
Million.
seen the coverage, the news coverage of flights on these big military, they've discontinued them because the news got out that the flight on a military aircraft was
Way more expensive.
costing like 20 times more than a commercial jet. Just put them on a jet and fly them home. So, all that for show, all of it, it just nauseates me that everything we're seeing and everything is being now controlled and driven by somebody that has an agenda. Trying to bend the truth so that you can say, oh, I saw it for myself. No,
Right.
no, you didn't. You didn't see it for yourself at all. And what you see is now being guided by, blinders and shapers and all the rest of it. And I say this, look, I don't think it's only the people that are opposed to us that do it. The people that are on maybe the left and people that agree with things we agree with, they've resorted to these same techniques because you have to fight fire with fire.
yeah.
And I just don't know, how do we as thinking human beings ever anymore gather any sense that we're able to listen to news or see news that is not filtered and directed and designed to churn us up one way or the other.
Not even on PBS?
Well, I listen to PBS, watch it all the time, because it's the only place that my heart rests.
And of course, they're going after PBS and NPR.
They sure are.
They always do. That's
Yeah,
new.
They did that last time when Trump was in power, and PBS survived that attempt.
And then, but could you have someone like Rachel Maddow? I think you can pretty much believe what she's talking about. I mean,
Yeah, I like Rachel Maddow, but Rachel Maddow is a journalist with an agenda. I mean, she is. There's no question about it. She puts a story together and includes what tells her side of the story and leaves out what doesn't. And that's okay, because I like her side of the story. But in fact,
It's opinion, it's not
it
fact.
is opinion. And
Yeah,
It's
she's
not fact, but it's just
not giving the straight news. It is an editorialized segment.
right.
Yeah.
And if you like that editorial part, then you listen. Yeah.
And what I particularly like about her is she has a love of going back in history and telling you about times when similar things have happened. That I love.
Yeah.
I really do. But I get all of MSNBC. I love MSNBC because they tell my side of the story. But I get worried. I got worried especially after the election, because I felt that the commentators on MSNBC did not have a clue what was coming. They didn't. Mm-hmm. And they did not help me to prepare for it, because I think, again, this is the second election where they had it wrong. They just had it wrong. And I don't know. I haven't forgiven them yet.
I mean, what can you say? You see it coming. They did warn. Everybody that I listened to said, we're really flirting with the end of democracy.
Yeah.
So vote accordingly. So what can you do? You can't force people to vote. And it wasn't a big blowout.
No, it wasn't. And in fact,
they have said all along, she only lost by what?
Only one.
Pretty slim margin, it wasn't big at all. The problem was they also won the Senate and the House, and then also very small margins. So it just shows you that the country is divided right down the middle.
Yeah.
And
all the people who never voted.
And all the people who didn't vote, they were probably the ones that might have put it over the top for Harris, but it's done. Let's move on. I agree with that. Move on. But now, what can we do about this?
That's right.
This ridiculousness.
Yeah.
There's got to be some pushback more than saying, well, we'll bring it to the courts. Well, now he's defying the courts.
Right.
So now,
Right.
what do you do?
So what?
Does it come to violence? What happens here?
Listen, I was telling someone else today, I remember my civics class in 9th grade, and they were explaining the balance and checks and balances of the U.S. government, and they were talking about who has the power to enforce. The Congress actually has the power to enforce their laws. They do. They have their own version of control of the military. The president has both the National Guard and the military. Whatever the president says can be enforced by the president. Unfortunately, the Supreme Court has no police force. They have no way to enforce their decisions. And if the elected government decides to thumb their nose at these decisions, and Trump goes forward and says, nope, we're going to send the military to these office buildings, we're not going to let you in, the Supreme Court does not have an enforcement branch.
Oh. But actually, the National Guard, each state has a National Guard.
Right, that's right.
Under the jurisdiction of each governor.
That's true. That's true. The National Guard is the...
I mean, I don't think anybody at this point wants to see bloodshed, but Did you see Daily Show last night?
No.
John Oliver made an appearance and he congratulated us on America. I knew you would come back to your father. Now you are a monarchy.
Right.
You should have been that all along with your silly checks and balances. You knew that wasn't going to. Of course, he was being
Right. He
funny.
always is. But
He's also an American citizen. But that's kind of, that's where we're headed.
well, that's where we're headed if they cannot figure out how to both stop him from doing what he wants to do, but also reversing what he's already done.
Unless we go further into another civil war.
Yeah. But who's going to fight it? You can't, we can't.
We stopped the British by throwing the tea in the harbor. Maybe we should throw the cheeseburgers in the harbor this time.
Guys too.
Oh, it is getting very scary though when they have control over, everyone's information and means of pay. And who knows what they're doing? They're not transparent about it. So they could be changing the code to prevent, other people from seeing what the Treasury Department should actually see. They're taking over everything.
Well, and now we have these, divisions of red states and blue states, and which states are going to be getting funding. And, it's almost like it's in preparation for some real terrible confrontation.
Well, God, where are you here? Come on.
Yeah, I know. It's a time. Like, wreck the weapons and come down and set things straight. Defend the poor. The people that are counting on U.S. aid for food and for shelter in the world and prevention of disease. Like the whole...
And what happened to courage? I mean, all of these guys, Zuckerberg and Bezos and all of them, what happened to courage? I guess we lost it with money.
I was just going to say that. I think it went out the door when money came in. And the pathway to money, the keeping of money is... I mean, it's hard to imagine the wealth that has been accumulated under... what's his name? Trump's sidekick.
Musk?
Yeah, Elon Musk. In an interview he was doing about a year and a half ago, someone broke it down in the numbers and said that he had enough money that if he were inclined to do it, he could feed all the world's hungry for 5 years.
Wow.
And after he did all of that, he would still have more money than he could spend the rest of his life. So when we're talking...
Instead, he's watching out for us by cutting costs so we have a streamlined government.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
He's looking out for us. Well, that was their big shtick tonight. The two of them were on together. Trump looked very uncomfortable sitting behind the desk in the Oval Office while Musk was answering question after question and carrying on. It looked like Trump, I hope, is going to at some point have enough of that because, hey, the attention was on Musk, not on Trump.
Was that on Fox News?
No, I don't watch Fox News. No, it was on MSNBC earlier in the day.
It was on.
They carried it live.
On PBS tonight too.
Yeah, and the gist was, we're doing all of this for the public. You should be grateful we're doing this, and we're not going to listen to what the judges say because the judges are corrupt,
Right.
and they don't want us to help cut costs and make things easier for the American people.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I just was listening. Mikey Sherrill has an event right now,
Okay.
town hall, and she's saying mobilize, activate, legislate. We've got to do it all, and it's not going to be easy.
Nope. Well, I mean, the change in the authority and the power of the president has been happening over several years. I mean, I love Obama, but unfortunately, Obama resolved the fact that he didn't really have the power of Congress by using executive orders to accomplish most of what he did. And Democrats warned that said, look, if you can use executive orders like that, when the next Republican gets in, they're going to use executive orders to do whatever they want to do. And so here we are. You know, it's happening.
The thing is that if the courts are not the last gate rail, then where do we go from there?
We go to the streets. We go to the streets.
Where we can withhold taxes, because as you correctly
You know,
pointed out,
I don't know what the alternative will be.
I don't know. In World War II, you remember the Vichy government? That there was a government in exile.
Right.
Maybe we should have a government in exile.
illegally.
Something, some other opposition underground or something. But I mean, if the courts, and they're not going to be the guardrails, then really, yeah, you're right. We go to the streets, so but then it's
Should be funded.
violence. That's violence, yeah.
We have a constitutional scholar on
If I recall, the Vichy government was very corrupt and awful.
Oh,
Yeah.
I know. No, I'm
Yes.
saying in the days of the Vichy government, but there was an exile.
But they did do that, and I think, Judy, you have often said we should have a shadow government ready to take over when we tear them down. Who's listening in on this? They've got our names.
That's right.
I think one of the shocking questions is, because we've already asked, well, what happens if all the courts together, including the Supreme Court, rule all of these behaviors as illegal, and then Trump just thumbs his nose at them? The other thing is, and I think this is, there's a lot of movements to say, well, what we have to do is take advantage now, and in the midterm elections, we need to elect people that are opposed to all this. And I go, well, what if Trump decides to defy Congress?
Well, I'd be surprised if he gets that far that we'll have elections. We'll say they're not necessary.
Isn't he talking now about, in order to vote, you're going to need a passport or a birth certificate?
Yeah.
No longer will a driver's license suffice. And how many people, have their birth certificate or their passports that there is going to be a requirement for you to go to the polls. Isn't that something that they would do? Yes.
Sounds like sure. Why not? Show us your papers. They've been moving in that direction for a long time.
Yeah,
Ever since Reagan, really, this plan has been afoot on the, on the right-leaning side of government.
well, it's disqualifying people to vote who they think won't ever vote Democratic. And some of the vote counting even that took place, like in Georgia, they disqualified 200,000 votes. They just disqualified them, and that could have changed Georgia. Could have made a big difference in the majority.
Some of that, I think,
I don't know.
likely be, should it continue to defund these institutions as
You're Mikey.
the power of the purse is with Congress. I think that would be something that the states would have to take.
Barbara, we can hear Mikey Sherrill talking, but we can't hear what she's saying.
Veterans disability payments. It's just
The state's taking over.
I think the states will have to really get aggressive in not allowing the executive branch to usurp that power, especially in the absence of Congress acting. So, Lane, I'll turn it over to you for the next one.
Okay.
Thank you, Congresswoman.
They're talking about what can the states do.
Right.
And, and they had constitutional lawyer saying that, the power of the purse is with the Congress. But, can we withhold our money? People used to, during the Vietnam War, people didn't pay their income tax, right?
Right.
That was one way, but, is that, doing something to spite your face or, whatever, but where's the money going to go? I think what I just feel like it's like 1 second after another, there's something going on and it's chaos and that's what they want.
That's right. That's them
To be
accomplishing.
so,
Right.
even with the employees, they said, all the federal employees have to go back to the office. So my son worked for the patent office. They don't have room for everyone. And some of the people live all over the country. They don't have an office to go to. But he said that he's exempt anyway because he's in a union.
Right.
Now, how many employees, federal employees, are in unions? So it doesn't apply. So it's all this scare, Mr. Bluster that I did. Meanwhile, people are suffering.
Yeah, they are.
What's interesting is the cooperation and maybe coordination of the attorneys general in 22 states. And maybe again, maybe if the guardrails are overturned with the courts, that it will go back to the states. And I think maybe that's maybe the only place that we would have any possible, help. Maybe the governors will all, the blue states and maybe some pink state, red state, whatever. But that I thought was interesting. I liked that when I read about it, that attorneys general were, 22 states.
Right.
Yeah. So maybe that's the outreach that will eventually, be the opposition.
And that would be ironic because it's always the Republicans who are screaming about states' rights.
That's right.
And back into the states.
Yep.
And weaken the federal government. So maybe that will be their undoing. They like states' rights. Let's do it.
And I sent both Lou and Debbie something today about 2,000 people in Passaic on Saturday in terms of immigration rights.
Yep.
So, there are things happening.
Yeah.
But, it's trying to get connected to
That's
them.
the connection. Yeah.
So, people are wanting to do things. Other than push the button. If I get another petition request.
Oh, stop
I
doing that.
know.
You don't know what to do.
No, yeah.
You don't know what to do as an ordinary citizen. You get a lot of solicitations for money from different groups.
Yeah, no, I'm not sending money.
Yeah.
No,
Just signing petitions. But,
Right.
yeah.
Oh, and my
Let's
email
stop
to
doing
the
it.
White House finally came back that it was undeliverable.
Oh, I don't want to hear from
And
you.
I forgot today because you can only call from Tuesday to Thursday from 11 to 2 or 11 to 3 to get through to the White House.
Yeah, that's like a lottery. You'll never get through that.
did you see the numbers? What is it, 1,600 calls a minute or something like that? Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Well, I will try, but the office is closed other than Tuesday to Thursday, 11 to 3. That's when you can call. So I guess I'm going to have to do snail mail. I'm sure that will go in the circular drawer. But, it's just so frustrating.
I think there's I don't know if you've read about this, but I think there's another wave of complete rejection from his own supporters, and that is the consequences to farmers.
Yeah, right.
Farmers, in the springtime, right now, farmers put out their own money to buy repaired equipment, to buy seed, to buy fertilizer, and they go way into debt. Mm-hmm. And they count on a government farm aid program to then basically to give them grants to help them to keep the food coming. And in their canceling of all this other money, they've canceled all this money.
Right?
It's canceled. It's not even the postponed one. It's canceled. And these farmers, these are the ones that thought, we're red blood America. We're the ones that are, I'm going to wait to hear how my family that are farmers react to the fact that they're finally, somebody said, I don't know, 10 years ago, that the American farmer does not realize that they are in the same relationship to the government as the welfare mother in the city.
Right.
They have the same relationship to the government. But they're out there screaming about, how, these people living off the public dole. Guess what? It's how it works. The government collects money and then redistributes it to people. That's what they do. So now I guess,
Thinks it's not me, so I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
The Venezuelans now, all of a sudden they're realizing, oh, I thought he was only going to do this to certain people, not us.
Yeah.
Everyone is, not us.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a very small group of people who are pursuing their own self-interest, and they told everybody who would listen that they were their champions.
Right.
But in the end, I'm convinced this small cadre of people only have one group of people that are their champions, and that's themselves.
Right.
They're looking to build global power, and they are looking to be a global influencer in the global money-making scheme. And that's all their game is. They don't care.
Put each other under the bus.
That's right. They don't care about any of the rest of what, in our small world, we care about. They don't respect
Other as well. Trump told, they asked him if he felt Vance was going to follow him.
Yeah, I know.
He was afraid, and he said no.
Yeah, not so fast. Yeah,
I heard that.
don't jump to
He
that
could run for
conclusion.
another term, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm your friend, but I could care less about you.
Did
And
you
that's
see?
what's so frustrating.
Did you read
Because,
the?
it's all about me.
Did you read the encyclical from the Pope?
No.
You have to go look that up, because the Pope jumped in, and he in particularly lambasted J.D. Vance, named him by name, and said that because J.D. Vance is a new convert to Catholicism. He became a Catholic in 2019. And
Really?
So the Pope named him by name and said, I don't know where you got your instruction for what the Catholic Church believes in, but your ordering of love, which they give the Latin name for that, because Vance said the ordering of love according to the Bible is you love your family first, and then you love your family's family, and then you love your town, and then you love the city you live in, and then the country you live in. And if there's anything left, then you give it to other people of the world.
Really?
Yeah, and so the Pope named a Latin phrase, which is called the order of love, according to Jesus and the Bible, and it's exactly the opposite. You begin first by giving love to those that you have no reason to love, and that aren't connected to you at all. But it's a stinging slap in the face to Donald Trump, to J.D. Vance, and to their interpretation of Christianity.
Right.
And
Well, that Bishop Buddha
yes,
and said pretty much the same thing
yes, she did.
in a gentle, reserved way.
Mercy.
It's like, but they don't care. They say they care about religion.
No, they
Do you
don't.
think Donald Trump knows anything about faith?
No.
And all these other Christian nationalists, they call themselves, I think they got the wrong message when they read the Bible. They should have, maybe studied it a little harder, because I think they've got the wrong message.
They read the Bible. They read the Bible that Donald Trump was holding in front of that Episcopal church,
Upside down?
the upside down version, because it is the upside down version. I don't mean it to judge him, but I don't think that Donald Trump gives one toot about anything that has to do with Christianity, or he would never have appointed Paula White as the spiritual director of the church. church.
There you go.
That woman is
You
crazy.
know.
She's crazy. She's out of her mind. But, she has all the look and the sound and the fury of someone who is so connected with God. And I don't think Donald Trump believes any of that, but he likes that people do.
He likes the votes.
Yeah.
He thinks the evangelicals will vote for him, and he's
Yep.
right. And,
If he's doing it, it must be right. Who am I to question it? If he's doing
he's
it,
appointed by God.
yes, he is. Yep.
He's a Messiah. Yeah, right.
One of the,
Christ.
this was the letter was to the Catholic bishops, and the Pope said, Christian love is not a concentric expansion of interests, but little by little extend to other persons and groups. In other words, the human person is not a mere individual, relatively expansive with some philanthropy feelings. Because Vance had said, first I have to take care of my kid, my
Right.
family, et
Right.
cetera, et cetera. Yep, yeah.
Yeah, and
This was the Catholic bishops.
he appeals to the Catholic bishops to get involved
Yeah,
and take this idea on and basically to defend Christianity.
right.
Because the reputation of Christianity is on the line. What is it really? Is it a self-help thing to help you get rich? Good Lord, I thought we had given up on that when the prosperity gospel got wind and flew all over the country for a while. Love Jesus, you get rich. Pray, pray the right prayer, you'll be healthy. I mean, it makes me want to run from Christianity. And that's not good, because I'm a pastor.
Little hard.
Answer the Pope's call. Get up and preach. Preach it.
Yeah, I try every week.
I'm sure you do. That's just, depends on where you are and who's listening.
Yeah,
So whatever happened to the bishop? That
Nothing.
Any bishop?
yeah, nothing. She's well protected. I mean,
Yeah.
he's not, as a politician, he's not going to dink the armor of an Episcopal bishop. He's not.
He might cut off their funding or their, status as,
Like Lutherans that he's done already?
they can, take your tax exemption away, right? So,
That's right, that's right.
Yeah, they can, but the problem is that was a threat to us pastors 20 years ago. But the problem is now that so many fundamentalist pastors are wading into political stuff. You got pastors getting into large pulpits telling you who to vote for. And so if they were to begin that movement, believe me, the atheist associations would love to see that taken away. They don't understand why tax exemption applies to churches anyway, And they've taken it to court. The whole ministers' housing being tax exempt, they took that to court and it went to the Supreme Court. It was close. But, they're not going to wrestle with that monkey, because that will fall right back on them. If they start taking away churches' tax exemption for expressing political views, that's how he got into office. So, I don't know. He's really Cyrus. He's the deliverer of Israel.
Oh my God, he's going to build hotels and a spa in Gaza. Yeah. Trump Gaza spa.
well, he was sitting down with King Abdullah today.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was trying to talk the Jordanians into taking millions of Palestinians. Jordan has millions of Palestinians.
Right.
For half the population is Palestinian and would like to go back to their old homes.
Right.
They're not going to take any more. They're not wealthy, and they're not an oil conglomerate, and neither is Egypt. So I don't know what he thinks he's going to do there. He's trying to please Netanyahu for whatever reason. I don't know.
He's just, and if Musk wants to get involved in looking at, lavish spending, let's look at the money that the U.S. pumps to Israel.
Yeah. Yeah, there, you can cut that.
Like, it's outrageous.
It is.
It's 15 times higher than any subsidy that has ever gone to any other nation from the United States.
You are
And
correct.
there'll be no mention of it. There'll be no mention of it in this austerity program. Not one bit.
And if you notice, they haven't said much about the military because Musk has all those military contracts. So, I mean, he was questioned about that today, but he did the dance. They don't answer any of the questions. They just,
They deflect everything, yeah.
Right.
They've learned they don't really have to answer the questions. They just have to show up and talk. And, you got to be careful. Don't anger people by making it look like you don't want to answer questions. Just show up and talk. Doesn't matter if you recite the Constitution. You don't have to answer their questions. You don't.
and they don't.
Change the subject. Talk about something else.
Was Kennedy confirmed? Did anybody know? Was
I don't know.
It's supposed to be confirmed. Some of the other.
I never heard the results of that.
I don't know either. And that other horrible, what's his name? Kash Patel. Oh, God.
God.
This week.
Yeah, they're trying to block that one, especially so because they're saying he perjured himself. He lied to Congress, to the Senate when they were questioning him. He outright lied. So they're trying to get him on some technicality with the courts. I didn't hear the whole thing, but that won't go anywhere.
No, it won't. It won't because everybody on the Republican side is afraid of Donald Trump.
That's right.
And now they're afraid of Musk because he has so much money he can throw into political campaigns against him.
Right.
I mean,
Oh,
it's obscene.
All about the money.
It's obscene.
All about the money.
oh well.
Something that really got me also was when they talked about they were going to ban transgender athletes from the NCAA. There are 10 transgender, and there are 500,000 NCAA athletes.
Right.
Yeah.
So all of this legislation is for 10 athletes.
Right?
Figure it out.
Well,
But it resonates with some people in the middle of the country somewhere where
they got, they got a
don't
fear. They have a fear of someone's coming to destroy the world and the ethics and the morality of the world. It's like this ghost fear that unfortunately for transgender people right now has been stirred up against them.
scary for them. It's always been tough, but now,
Well, my friends, I'm going to say this. We did not venture far from this psalm.
we did not.
You may have thought that what we did was we left the psalm behind and we went off and talked politics. Nope, we stayed right on the theme of the psalm. And in order to be true to the psalm, what we really need to do is to promise during the next week till we are back together again to pray, okay, God, it's your turn now.
Right.
Right?
I do that every day.
It's time for you. It's like,
God, I'm doing what I can. You have to start doing what
that's
You're
right.
preaching to the choir
Yep.
here. We're all on your side.
We
I don't
will.
know. And I'm even doing it in the masjid. I'm going to the mosque and saying the same thing.
Okay. Well, let's just keep it up. Keep up the good prayers.
Take
All right.
care, all.
Good night, everybody.
Be safe.
Thank you. Yep.
Yeah, it's
Bye.
supposed to snow again tonight.
I know,
Be
I
careful.
know. Okay.
Good night.
Good night. Good to see everyone.